the Walther PDP F-Series. Let's check it out. Walther introduced the PDP. This is an upgrade for the PPQ. In fact, 17 parts interchange with the PPQ design. Great trigger on the PPQ. I mean, it has been extremely popular, but there are a lot of upgrades to the PDP that take it, guys, to another level. I mean, the slide serrations, this being optimized for red dot sights. Grip texturing is improved. I mean, there's a lot of things about the PDP that make it a very attractive firearm for self-defense. And so now Walther has taken it even a step further with their F-Series. And this is the PDP F. It has the 3.5-inch barrel, but it also comes in a 4-inch barrel. Very compact pistol. But one of the things about the F-Series is it's designed for smaller hands. Whether it's females, whether it's just guys that have smaller hands, or it just fits really nice in your hand. I'm a big fan of the grip on the PDP, but the PDP F to me actually fits my hand even better. With the grip circumference being reduced, with the trigger reach being reduced, even the pull of the slide is a little bit less. And so this makes an excellent firearm for ladies. And that's one of the largest growing segments of gun owners. There has been a lot of work done behind the F-Series to make it really ergonomic and excellent for those with smaller hands. And honestly, guys, those are the most vulnerable, and it's good to see Walther taking the initiative to really face that market. And we appreciate Walther for sending the PDP F-Series. I have done a full review on the PDP, and if you want to check out a lot of those details, comparing it to the PPQ. But the F-Series, to me, guys, I really enjoy taking this gun to the range. It's not just for ladies. And thank goodness it's not pink. The Walther PDP was introduced in 2021, and now they're coming out with the F-Series. And guys, to be honest with you, it's almost a totally different gun. I mean, they look the same, and of course this one has the optics already mounted. This is an excellent gun, great trigger. I mean, the grip on it is fantastic. It's optimized for red dots. And that's no different than the PDP F-Series. But it's a full-framed gun. Now this is the compact version, which has a 4-inch barrel, but they also have the bigger version as well. But one of the things about the F-Series is that we've had over 4 million new gun owners this past year, and a lot of them are female. While this is not necessarily geared just to females, it's really an excellent gun for them to check out. Now, one of the things that people do typically for females is they'll say, you just need a smaller gun. But smaller guns can be more difficult to shoot. This actually feels like a full-size gun, and yet it's more compact, and also it's really toward the duty size. But yet it's got that smaller size, and this can be concealed carried. I mean, let's face it, guys, a full-size gun in your hand in a combat situation is much preferred than a small little compact. There's definitely downsides. But there are some things about this F-Series that are really impressive compared to the PDP. One of the big things is the grip. The grip circumference has been reduced quite a bit. One thing that you'll notice on the standard is that it has palm swells here. You know, the front strap will be pretty much the same, but then the back strap is smaller. And so it allows for you to get a bigger, tighter grip, especially trying to reach that trigger. Now, before we start messing with the trigger, let's go ahead and safety check the pistol. And also the PDP has already been safety checked. 15+1 in the magazine, But I'm going to tell you guys, one of the big things, and I've noticed this with my daughter because she shoots with me a lot, is that when she grips a larger gun, getting to that trigger and getting the right feel on the trigger, that finger pad. You know, if you have large hands, sometimes people will come all the way out like this. But really, you should have just the pad of your finger right here, and it should feel very natural. Another thing is with female shooters especially, but even with guys with smaller hands, is when you're coming up here to that beaver tail area, you want to have your hand as high up on that slide as you can. It gives you better controllability of the firearm. One thing I've noticed is a lot of times when ladies, and we've done a lot of shooting with ladies because it's very important for them to really know how to shoot, is they'll grab the gun and there'll be a gap right here. And so they're shooting and it's got this gap. And so the PDP F-Series is cut, so it makes it easier to be able to get up on that grip and to get a high ride, and then also be able to get that finger in the right place. Now with these trigger safeties that they have now, you've got to depress that trigger safety for it to fire. And if you have just a barely grabbing onto that trigger, you may not be able to actuate the trigger. And so that's a real big plus for this gun. So we have better trigger reach, we have a smaller circumference, and we have a better grip that allows you to get your hand really high up on the pistol. That alone is excellent for those with smaller hands, but honestly, even if you have larger hands, this really feels good in your hand. Now the F-Series also has a reduced slide weight coming back. With the PDP, you know, it's got a nice full grip, and these super terrain serrations help with that. But it's definitely, you're working against a pretty tight spring. When it comes to the F-Series, I mean, it is much easier to pull back. And one of the things that I've seen over and over is a lot of ladies have trouble pulling slides back. And so this will give you some advantage in being able to rack that slide and loading a second round into the chamber. One thing I will recommend though is that if you still have problems, grip the gun and push the grip forward. Just hold on to the serrations and push the grip forward. You have more leverage with your hand, you have more to hold on to. And so that's one trick that my wife actually uses that's really helped her. Now one of the things about this little front part here is that when you're gripping the gun, and if you have a red dot especially, but even without the red dot, it allows you to get to your sights faster. And so if I take and I do that pinky squeeze, you watch how it just brings the handgun down and it aligns those sights up. And then with my support hand, I bring it in and then I'm able to find the sights really quickly. And especially if you're shooting red dot. These are really maximized for red dot shooting. And we have the optics plate right here on top. One thing I love is they're retaining the back sight. So even though I have a red dot here, I still have access to my sights. Now it may be a little bit lower than where the sight sits up, and you can get suppressor height sights if you want them. But you can still aim this even with these sights, with the red dot on the pistol. Now the sights are Glock compatible. So you can place any kind of sights on this gun. There's a ton of choices, night sights, fiber optic, you know, I mean, the sky's the limit. Another improvement that they've made is they've rounded off right here these super terrain serrations. And man, they are deep. I mean, they're big, they're deep, and they're easy to get a hold of. Especially in a self-defense encounter, you know, you start going to gross motor skills, it's good to be able to really have a good grip on the slide. One thing with the PDP, the standard, is that they're not as rounded off, and you'll see they're more squared off. One of the things they did as far as designing the slide is they didn't take away from the slide by cutting down and making those serrations. The serrations actually come out from the slide, so it makes it just a little bit thicker here. But we'll look at it when we break it down. Inside they have relieved metal out of the slide, so it doesn't add any weight to the slide. Now with the 3.5 inch barrel, we have a 2-slot Picatinny rail. With the 4 inch, we have a 3-slot Picatinny rail. So that could limit you a little bit on light laser options, but most will fit on these guns. Also, we have cuts right here at the front of the slide, just to give you a little bit more ease in putting this in a holster. Now it doesn't come with optics plates. You have to order them for the optic that you want, and you can call Walther or get in touch with them and they'll send you a plate to be able to adapt whatever red dot you're using. One thing that I love that they've done with the grip, they've increased the texturing. And this is a tetrahedron type texture, and it's what they call their performance center texture. But you can see, I mean, it is really fine. But guys, it's soft to the touch in a sense, but when you grip it and you grip hold of it, it seems to bite into your hand. It gives you more gripability to the pistol. So it doesn't matter if your hands are wet or if they're dirty. I mean, you're going to be able to get a really solid grip on it. And it's one of the things about the original PPQ, to me, it was very lightly textured. But now on the front strap, it still retains a checkering. So you've got the tetrahedral kind of texturing here, and then you've got checkering here, and these are the two areas that you grip, and this is where you hold the gun. Those on the side, it gives you some texturing that really helps, but these are the two areas you really need to concentrate on. And again, with that little lip that comes down, it just nestles right in your hand. Now, while the PDP is replacing the PDQ, there's still 17 parts plus mag compatibility with the PPQ M2. And so you've got a lot of parts compatibility with this. In fact, the slide will fit from your PPQ onto your PDP rail. But now on this compact version, having a 3.5-inch barrel, that's going to be a little different. But with the 4-inch, you could definitely do it. We've done it. And to be honest, while the PPQ has one of the best triggers for a striker fire pistol on the market, the PDP has actually improved that trigger pull. Now here you have your blade safety. We have a little bit of take-up. Now, one thing about the PDP is it has a lot shorter take-up than even the standard PDP. But that has a shorter take-up than the PPQ. And so we come, a little take-up, we hit a wall. There we go. Nice, crisp break. A teeny bit of stacking right before, but it's almost unnoticeable. And for reset, real fast. Let's check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 4 pounds, 9.4 ounces. 4 pounds, 8.8 ounces. Mag release right here, drops those mags out. In fact, it jettisons them out. You can switch that mag release to the other side, but it's not ambidextrous. And then we have ambidextrous slide stops on either side. You have your takedown lever right here, and we'll look at that when we break the pistol down. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is that the barrel is what they call the step chamber. This has been around since 1915. In fact, George Luger developed the step chamber and actually was incorporated with the Walther P38. The chamber has a looser fit at the beginning, and then as it goes, it steps down 0.1 millimeter to give you a tighter fit toward the barrel. This is going to give you better lockup. It's going to seal the gases. It's actually going to give you a higher velocity. 40 to 60 feet per second higher. And it'll be cleaner because you're not getting as much debris back in the chamber, which should give you even better accuracy. And that's one of the things that Walther does with their pistols. Trigger guard is squared off. It has texturing on the front. It's ample for gloved hands. And I was at NRA in Houston this past year, and I was talking to my friend of mine, Vincent, who works there at Walther. It was a passion for them to be able to provide something that would give women a better option. You know, one of the things that we always do is try to get the right beaver tail size, the right grip, the right angle, getting our hand up really high on the pistol, and being able to really perform and get that exact place on your trigger. And the one problem is ladies just have smaller hands. And then again, there are a lot of guys out there that have smaller hands. And this allows you to be able to get your optimum grip on the pistol, which will allow you to focus more on the target. And to me, that is a huge plus. I mean, the one thing is we want the optimum fit. And to me, the F-Series brings the optimum fit for those with smaller hands. But even guys, if you have larger hands, you might like this grip. I mean, the standard PDP, I mean, this grip is ergonomic. It's beautiful. It has palm swells in it. It fills your hand, and it feels really good. I mean, it just makes this a great gun to take to the range. But when I pull this F-Series out, it just brings my hand even closer in, and I feel like that it's just more a part of my hand, you know, than just a tool at the end of my hand. Weight on the Walther PDP F-Series 3.5-inch barrel. 1 pound, 6.6 ounces. I want to thank Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammo, all made in the USA, one of the largest suppliers of ammunition in the country. And also, of course, the Maglula is the bomb. Well, we took the PDP F down to the range. I was very curious at the differences between the PDP and the PDP F-Series. With that smaller grip, for me, not having really large hands, it makes it nice to be able just to wrap around that grip. It honestly gives you a little more confidence. For the design that it was made for those actually with smaller hands, it really fits a good niche. Now my daughter, Sarah Mack, I wanted to make sure that she tested this out and she loved it, much more than the standard PDP. I like the way that shoots better.
I do too.
What do you think about that grip?
I feel like my hand can actually get around it, and I can actually get my knuckles to the correct place and still reach the trigger. The biggest thing for me is a lot of times trying to get my thumb to the correct place and being able to reach the trigger at the same time is not always, like I can't always do that, so sometimes I have to pull my thumb back just to reach the trigger.
And so with the PDP?
It feels a little more chunky in my hands, so I am having to like reach further around for the trigger than I am with this. And so like I said, like my thumb, I don't have as much grip on the other side because of that.
And too, just the thinness of this grip helps
get
your hand better.
Yeah, and it's not too thin where it's like feels like you're holding on to like a rod or something, but it's enough grip to really feel like you're still holding on to a full gun.
One of the things though about the PDP that we were shooting, it has the red dot. So there was a little bit of a difference between the two because of that. I did shoot the standard PDP and I feel like that the red dot actually makes a little more mass to the slide and it gives it a little bit more muzzle flip because it's really toward the back. But shooting them side by side, the F-Series was a flat shooting gun, actually flatter than the PDP, which honestly kind of surprised me with that shorter barrel. But there's something about the control of the grip, and again with the PDP coming down at the end and the F-Series, this allows you just to tighten up your pinky and be able to see those sights even better. The super terrain serrations, they're very grippable, especially with gross motor skills. It's going to be easier to grab that grip, and yet it's relieved on the inside so it lessens the slide weight. Now as far as disassembly, we're going to drop our magazine, check the chamber. First thing we want to do is pull the trigger, pull back, and pull down on our tabs. And then the slide comes right off. And you just pull down right here on these tabs. I mean, it's on both sides, pull down, it's really easy to do. Then we pull out our recoil spring and guide rod. It is dual, it is captive, and it is metal. And then we have our barrel. And again, 3.5-inch barrel. Very well done. I mean, Walther has been making really high quality firearms for a long time. Beautiful inside the slide. I mean, the work is impeccable. And you can see where they've made relief cuts all throughout the slide to get that weight down since they've added to the outside of the slide. But that's a beautiful nitride finish. It has more of a matte finish on the outside. And then here, I mean, this is, typical striker fire polymer frame pistol. Let's go ahead and reassemble. Just drop in your barrel, bring in your recoil spring and guide rod, and then bring it over the frame. And test for function. It comes in a nice hard plastic box. And you have your pistol, you have an extra magazine, also have a mag loader, you have your lock. We have one additional back strap. The small one is attached. The one that's extra is a little bit larger. And you get a small tool kit, and this is for the optics ready plate. And your manual and your extra paperwork. Now the retail price on the Walther PDP F-Series is $699. And of course market priced, your local gun shop will be less. But let's talk about some pros and cons. Of course, the big pro is that this is developed, designed. They've gone over this for a number of years to make this optimal for women or just people with smaller hands without marketing it directly to women. One thing that I love about this gun is it's not pink. And yet I can carry it and not feel like I'm carrying a lady's handgun. Lady Walther on the side, I mean, that's not there. I mean, this looks like a standard handgun, and it is. If you take the Ruger LCP, I mean, that's a teeny tiny handgun, and a lot of people really like it. And so I understand that the grip, even though you may have large or extra large hands, this grip may feel good for you. And it's one of the things that whenever I recommend a gun for someone is I tell them, I say, go into a gun shop and put different guns in your hand and see if you can hit that trigger. See if it's natural. See if it's not a stretch. And that's one of the things that the F-Series does. I love the grip texturing. I mean, it's really nice, and it just, while it doesn't rough up your hands, it definitely gives you a solid grip. And again, the tighter you pull to it, the more it grips into your hand. The serrations, those super terrain serrations, they're large and they kind of stand out from the frame or the slide, but yet they're so easy to grab whether you're doing press checks or you're racking your slide. I love that the sight's on the back. I mean, that way if I put my red dot on here, I still have a sight retained. The compact size is nice. I like this size, and the 3.5-inch barrel, again, it allows it to be concealed carried or, again, at the range or for home defense. Trigger is superb, and you have 15 rounds in the magazine, and they are coming out with extensions if you want to do that. Glock compatible sights, nice accessory rail, it's not too large, ambidextrous controls throughout, and I love that the grip just allows you to really get your hand up high onto the slide. I mean, there are a lot of pluses. What are some minuses? Well, you know, these are big, thick serrations. And, you know, if you may not like that, you know, some people don't. They just want something thin. But it's not all about looks. It's about, this is a fighting handgun, and that's what it's designed for. If you want something pretty, go find you something pretty. But for me, a lot of the different features on this gun lend itself to be an excellent carry option or home defense option. And to be honest, there's not anything else as far as a con. It's all about personal preference. And again, guys, we live in the golden age of firearms, and this gun proves it, because they are developing it and designing it for people with smaller hands. And again, with the female market coming in strong with the carry market, it's important that they have more options. One of my favorite guns that I recommend is the Smith EZ. That's a great gun. It's really made for women. I mean, it's really easy to pull the slide back, but it's a limited round capacity. And so here you have a full round capacity. You feel like you have a full gun in your hand. And if you're looking for that more full-size feel, and yet a smaller gun, this makes a great option. Or go with a 4-inch. So guys, it's good to see Walther coming out with options for those with smaller hands. Again, some of the most vulnerable in our society, and they need to be armed and confidently armed. And having a gun that is not, they're just adapting their grip to it, but yet the grip is designed for their hands. That is an excellent way that, to me, Walther really hit it out of the ballpark with this one. And again, we really appreciate Walther for sending the PDP F-Series for this review. And guys, especially for the ladies, you need to check out the PDP F-Series. Now, we really appreciate Sportsman's Guide for being one of our sponsors. And they give a $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, no 00. And they have all kind of outdoor related, camping, hiking, you name it, they've got it. But one thing that I use them probably the most for is their military surplus from around the world. And if you join their buyers club, you get a better price and you get free shipping on most items. So check out Sportsman's Guide. It's a great resource. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Mag release right here, it doesn't take much to be able to, and especially in this has an Comes in a nice hard plastic box with the Luger. Is racking the slide. It is difficult. Okay, let's do that over. Let's just do the whole. And so, you know, that may be, okay.
Whatever.
Blah, 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 blah.